next thing I'd like to pick up on is, and we've talked about who we're bringing into the organisation and the value of skills. I'm interested in understanding, well, what will the marketing organisation of the future look like? What is the structure? What are the operational practices? And what are we thinking about it today? So, James, have you got any thoughts on kind of where you think marketing is going?
I think people obsess a little about org structures, if I'm honest with you, and org charts. But I'm a big believer, especially in a company like Dropbox, that you should keep your org structure relatively fluid. And I think maybe sort of 10, 15 years ago, you'd have an org structure and that would be it. And there wouldn't be too many changes, and different skill sets bringing in. But, for me, it's the obvious skills, but I think it's more about the premise of keeping things flexible and being agile with your org structure. Yes, you have to have some consistency and people need to know what they're doing, but things change so fast,
And in a large organisation like Accenture, is flexibility really important, or is you have a job and you need to focus on that?
No, I think we are slightly different because our org structure is set, but I would agree. I don't think the org structure is what dictates what marketing does. I think I've alluded to some of the things that I think we, if you like, sort of what will a B2B marketing organisation in the future look like. It will have data scientists in it. We wouldn't have had those 2-3 years ago. We wouldn't have even known why you needed them. But in 2 or 3 years, I will need more data people in a way that I don't today. So there's a whole range of new skills that I don't think B2B marketing, not just Accenture, B2B marketing generally changed a huge amount in about a decade. And suddenly we now faced with a whole bunch of new things we need to do, and we're working out how to transform. But the biggest thing is not a skill, but an attitude, a mindset that just says, I'm going to get in and I'm going to get things done. And a little bit, I imagine that's what you're talking about you don't just do the job that's in your box, you get it done. I always say to my team, if there's a job that needs doing and you don't know whose job it is, it's probably yours.
And Lindsay, in your situation, I'm sure you don't have office blocks full of marketing people with all different unique skills. So what does that look like for you? I mean, how are you going about getting the right team in place?
It's not an easy challenge to face, but I think trying to think about the right people to bring into that mix and then grow from there. And so I definitely think it's important to have the separation between creative and data science, but I try to instill in the more creative roles that importance of understanding how they measure what they're doing. And so maybe they're not running the data science behind it, and I would never expect them to, but I think it's important for them to have that responsibility of trying to get a little bit more data-driven in what they do.
So we touched on a couple of points there, including data and data science. And Scott, I know you've got some views on the importance of data science in marketing.
Yeah. So in terms of how I've started to look at the team and hire over the last couple of years, I think of the team as being either part scientist or part creative. So those two are starting to come in together because you need people now that can look at the ROI modelling. You need people that can understand insights, and that's whether that's hindsight, so the looking back bit, which we've been very good at as marketers, reporting what we've done, but also that we're now moving more to what is insight. So we've got loads of tools ourselves with Microsoft where we can surface up data and we can pull it up through our Power BI dashboards, and it's great, but you still need somebody, a human, that can interpret that and then understand how we can use that in a more meaningful way. So that hindsight and insight thing is important, but where we're now going is more to foresight, and what I love about foresight is it's going to start helping us as marketeers to make much more precision decisions about the marketing that we do. A really good example of that is that we now in Microsoft can see some customers that we want to deal with. We can see how we've touched them through the marketing life cycle and the sales life cycle, and then we can start to see what looky-likeys are there relevant to those customers and do the same marketing to them, and then hopefully that will get them along the same way. So you start to get much more focused on how you can use data to make the right decisions but do the right marketing that will probably get you more credibility within the business as well. So the one area that I'm beefing up is the data and insights piece, and that's that scientist bit, but you still need the creatives as well. And then the one thing that we all anchor off is the 3 C's. Do you understand our customers? Do you really know what they're doing and thinking? Because that allows you to do the right marketing. Do you really understand what the competition is up to as well? Because often they can be doing better things than us, so let's go and have a look what they're doing. And then, do you understand the company you work in, the products, the revenue objectives, other objectives we've got, and if you understand those three areas, you will do the right marketing, but data is going to play a really, really key part of that. And I've got some really good data and insights, analytics professionals within the team, and I only see that being beefed up as it becomes the muscle of CMO over the next couple of years or go. But there are other roles that have to be in there alongside that are important, which is the traditional creative roles.
So data science, the muscle of the CMO, I quite like that. In our business, we talk a lot about mad men versus math men. And there's almost a kind of, it's either one or another, where I actually believe you still need both, but the creative bit needs to be inspired by data, not necessarily inspired by just a wonderful creative idea. And so
often people say the two can't live together.
No,
they absolutely can.
Yeah,
Absolutely can.
No, I completely agree. And in fact, the way that we're structured is that we've got a whole bunch of data scientists, and then we've got a whole creative team, and they just kind of play very nicely together, which works.
That's why you don't hire individuals; you hire a team.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a really, really important point. We've started to talk a little bit about how we're bringing the marketing teams together and the data and the science, and we all work for technology or technology-enabled businesses, and technology continues to disrupt. It disrupts our customers, it disrupts consumers. What responsibility do we feel that we have in marketing to make sure that we're articulating our messages in the right way? Peter, you're in a very interesting, relatively complex behavioural and infrastructural change business. How are you getting those messages across in the right way?
Well, I think the first important thing I would say is that marketing needs to reflect the business. I mean, it's not the responsibility of marketing to say it will be responsible. The business has to be responsible, and the marketing will then reflect that. The biggest thing for us, of course, is artificial intelligence, and however you phrase that, whether it's robotics or automation or whatever definition of that you have and how you apply that. But if we look at that as an example, we have said as a business that we recognise we believe that's the next big revolution that will revolutionise not just work but social environments and whole cultures, and we therefore have to be responsible about the way we apply that. We have to think through the implications of the technologies and the services that we're enabling companies to develop in a way that is much more responsible than just saying, there you go, get on with it. We just make it. We don't have to live with the consequences. And that's the kind of responsible, I think, marketing and business we need to be about some of these big disruptive technologies that are coming down the pipe, because otherwise we could disrupt families, industries in a negative way, countries and economies in a way that is not our intention at all. We want to make the world better and more efficient, as we all do, for consumers and enterprises alike. But we believe actually increasingly it's incumbent on us to think about the impact of those technologies and act to mitigate them in some way, shape or form.
I mean, that's really interesting. And you talk about the impact of the technologies, bringing that a little bit further forward, the impact of our messaging and our marketing to people. James, is responsible marketing something you even think about? Or is it just a day job and you would never lie in an ad?
Would never lie in an ad, of course.
The ASA would make sure of that.
Absolutely. We have to, and we want to be responsible. So we have over 500 million registered users. We market to those users and new users in different ways. One of the ways we market to those 500 million is in product. Getting your message right is important, because if you don't, people vote with their feet at the end of the day. They close their accounts. The other true test for us around, are we getting our message right, are we being responsible, is when we start to introduce new features, new products. So people, again, vote with their feet whether they want to use those, whether the message is right, whether it's resonating. So absolutely being a responsible marketer is important. But, we talked a lot about customers being king. They are. At the end of the day, there are alternatives. They'll go somewhere else if you're not getting it right. So getting that clarity, creating, that kind of clarity and sort of space between you and your competitors. is different, and it's not all about bits and bytes and features and functions. It's about how you can help them in what they're trying to do. So, you know, putting the customer at the centre of everything you do has been a theme here. Being a responsible marketer, you know, when you press the button and an email is going to millions of registered users, it's quite a moment, I can say. You know, you want to make sure you're getting it right, so absolutely responsible.
And talking about that competitive differentiator, and therefore I feel marketing needs to be a differentiator as well. Laurence, in your industry, which you're a challenger brand, if I would say, and I mean that in the most complimentary way, but it's a very, very tight, very competitive market. How do you go about that?
You know, to Peter's to Peter's point, you have. I mean, it's not only marketing who needs to be responsible. It's the business, and you really have to be consistent with your purpose. So in the case of Pipedrive, our purpose is to make sales better at what they are. And so we developed a tool, like the tool was developed by salespeople for salespeople, and that's our main differentiator, like where like classic CRM would require a lot of, data to be filled in and will be like focused on reporting. Like our goal is really to help like sales drive their pipeline, hence our name, thanks to pushing activities. And so we really want to be focused on this core mission. So it's keeping this focus, you know, and making sure that what you promise, you deliver.
And I love that, what you promise, you deliver. I was speaking to somebody recently that talked about the culture in their company was a high say-to-do ratio. If they say they're going to do it, they do it. Scott, in your organisation that is quite large, multiple products, servicing multiple different audiences on a global basis, how do you keep control of that?
So what we're trying to do is join them up a lot more. So actually, regardless of marketing, Satya Nadella has done a really good job working, first of all, on bringing engineering together, so how we build our products, then how we market those products all feeds up into one leader, our CMO, Chris Capicella. And then what that means is as we go to market in the field, we can go out with more joined up products and solutions for the message that our customer wants to hear, not what we think they want to hear as well. Often we can get very hung up, generally as an industry, around the technology we sell, and we get very product focused. Actually, we've done a lot of work on making sure that the themes that customers are talking about, we really understand, and we test those themes so that we are going out with the right messaging. With the table here in terms of it's the company's responsibility to make sure that we are getting the right messages out there that aren't misleading. We as spokespeople, as one of the spokespeople of the company, need to make sure that we then execute on that in the right way. But I think it's really important that you don't try to go away from getting a message across that is the right one, rather than getting a message across that could mislead the customer, take them down a path where they end up buying something that didn't give them, you know, what they were looking for. So I think it's really, really important that we understand that the customer has an agenda and they have objectives they want to reach. Make sure that we're addressing the right messaging out to them, and that there's no misleading messages that go out there. I think the other key thing as well is that we are very big within Microsoft on how we handle our customers' data.
Yes.
Very big there. We've got lots of processes and checks in place to make sure that data is handled in exactly the right way. GDPR is coming, so a lot of organisations are starting to wake up for that, but for us, GDPR is just something we will adhere to. We're already doing a lot of work and have done a lot of work to make sure that we're handling data responsibly, as well as the message that goes out as well. And I think customers expect that. They want to trust you. If you want to be a trusted supplier to a customer, they expect you to not be disingenuous and to make sure that you are doing things in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lindsay, your business is around data and insight and information. So how are you using that, and are you concerned about ways that could be used?
It's something that we pay really close attention to. So we work with enterprise organizations across retail, travel, automotive, and finance and insurance. So we're working with people who are hugely data conscious and want to trust in the technology that they're investing in. So our business has spent a lot of time making sure that we handle data with responsibility, and we've taken all the measures and put them in place. And for such a small growing company, it was really impressive to come into that, because in a lot of startup environments, that's kind of an afterthought because you're just running with what you have. But that's really how the business has built itself from the ground up. And I think a part of why a lot of large organizations are really excited to work with us, and we get feedback about they like that sense of security, and we're building that trusted advisor relationship from the beginning.